you said it. Very, very professional. You're a professional lady.
Well, hi.
Hi, Susan. Hi. It's
Do you like
such
how
a
I
pleasure
just
to meet
Yeah,
you.
I'm so professional. Do you like how I started without even telling you we're starting?
I knew. I knew. It was clear.
Yeah, Lisa, welcome to the Change Guru
Yes.
podcast. Lisa, have you ever done a podcast before?
No, I haven't done a podcast before. This is
Okay.
my first podcast.
Awesome. Well, you know what? The weird thing is, you're my first Australian guest.
Fantastic. I'm honored. From
I am
down under.
too. From down under. But you know what? I was thinking it would be cool for you to describe Byron Bay and the area where you live because there's really nowhere on earth that's like it. So tell us a little bit about where you live.
Yeah, Byron Bay is a fascinating place. We refer to it as the bubble. So it's the bubble for the seekers and the spiritually lost and the spiritually found. And here you find the plethora of healing modalities and very pure lifestyle. But there's an irony because it's not so pure at times. There's a lot of hedonism and partying that happens. So, whilst it's one of the most pristinely beautiful places on the planet, and I have done a lot of traveling, it's a place that has a very interesting history of not really keeping its residents very solidly, in that it's a very transient place. So
Yeah.
we get 12 million, yeah, millions of visitors, but not many core stable population.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. If you imagine Australia, viewers, listeners, is like a big circle, right? And Australia would be on the, Byron Bay would be on the eastern side, about like middle of this circle on the eastern side. It's the most easterly point of Australia. But Lisa, have you been to Sedona in America?
Never been to Sedona, no.
It's an energy. It's They say it's like an energy spot. It has these beautiful orange canyons, and I think it's kind of that's the only place that I can think in the world, or maybe like Kauai in Hawaii that has, or Maui that has the kind of similar feeling like a Byron Bay.
Yes.
But I know we used to live in Lismore back in the day,
Okay.
so but I know what
Yeah.
you mean. How when you live in a really holistic, supposedly holistic community, you kind of get it's a bit of both sides of it, huh? Just like the really most wonderful things, and then there's stuff that you have to think twice about. So you kind of have to look on all prongs with every all the abundance that you'd have there.
You really do need to fine tune your discernment. Yeah, that's right.
And that's a cool thing coming from you as a yoga teacher. You know, you're a yoga teacher, you're a physiotherapist, you're a coach. So I love the idea that you're not all on one upper plane. I think that's why I really love you as a friend too. I just know that you're looking at everything on all levels. Now, Lisa, you're about 10 years younger than me, I think. I'm 51. How old are you?
Yeah, I'm nearly 41, so you're right. Yeah, yeah.
Because I remember when we first met, I thought you're the first 40-ish-year-old girl that I've met that was really interested in hormones and was really into it. And it made me think, I wonder if generationally, if our attitudes are really changing. If, for like my generation, the 50-year-olds and up, it's kind of we're starting to get more proactive about this stuff. And then I'm wondering if midlife, women your age are thinking about it more than we did at 40, because I sure as hell never thought about it when I was 40, ever.
I totally agree that the latest science, the research, all of the developments in the not only the medical world but also in the holistic health arena have all been really picking up on how important that perimenopausal period is for women between 35 and 50. And so a lot of my girlfriends now at 40 are noticing the bodily changes and the emotional and mental changes that happen that actually they need to address, because there's somewhat of a midlife crisis occurring amongst women my age that are forcing them to seek these remedies and information. Yeah.
What do you think happened?
So I particularly notice when I'm teaching.
Yeah, go on.
I particularly notice when I've been teaching yoga and working as a therapist, how incredibly important the women see the information as once they get their hands on it.
Yeah.
But it's new to a lot of them. It's very new to a lot of them. So they're taking it on with this inquisitive sense of, wow, I wish I knew that earlier. I really wish this information was available earlier to me.
Isn't that amazing? I'm curious, from the 40-year-old demographic, just your demographic, what do you get the vibe that are the main concerns of women your age? Like, I know we all have our, there's the typical things like relationship, career transition, life purpose, that kind of stuff, but kind of more specific, like my age, what I'm thinking about right now, 51, is I'm thinking about my parents, my aging parents, and having to get really more involved in their life, whereas I didn't have to 10 years ago. And then, of course, the final countdown of periods, thinking about that, because I really like getting my period, but I'm thinking about that a lot. But those are, when I think about kind of my top couple things that I'm thinking about right now, that's where my head's at. So where's your head's at? What are your peers thinking about right now?
A lot of them are going through the sense of having to relinquish the youthfulness and the vitality of youthfulness is a huge part of my age group. So I've had girlfriends confiding that their sex life isn't as good as it could be. They're feeling less juicy with life, less vital. They want to spice up their marriages because a lot of them have been married for 10 years or more, and they're feeling that they're going through an identity shift where they're no longer the maiden, and they're having to step into that wisdom of age more. And it's a beautiful thing because it's causing a lot of women to seek the depth of, I guess the spiritual quest is more important, to really work out who are we? Who are we who are we really?
Yeah, definitely. That's really perfect for, I think, what we're going to be talking about today. And this is something that's so cute about you when we're talking about stuff that we love. And you said, I just love the pelvic floor. And I could talk about it on and on. I could talk about it forever and ever. And I think that when you talk about sex and you talk about vitality and creativity, I know that the idea of connecting those kind of things, forget about the sex, say vitality, creativity, with the pelvic floor, that might be a new concept. So can you explain kind of why the pelvic floor is important to us, why we should definitely, if we haven't thought about it before, why we should think about it now?
Yeah, it's the main reason from a physiological point of view that this area of the body is important is that it provides us with, well, the Chinese medicine see this area as being the muscles of longevity. So our ability to have longevity and to keep the health of our internal organs comes down to having a very good relationship with the health of the muscles of the pelvic floor. And on top of that, the yoga philosophy is very much of the opinion that our divine feminine essence actually resides in the base of the body as an energetic entity or an energetic notion for us to connect with. And if we lose connection with this part of our bodies, or if we somehow have become disembodied by the fact that our cultural or religious upbringing has somehow made it taboo for us to connect with this part of our bodies, it has scientifically been proven that it will actually affect the functioning of the muscles. And then, of course, the issues. are huge around that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know I guess I'd be curious too. It might be interesting to keep on comparing 50, 40, because 50-year-olds maybe didn't think about the idea of that being an area that they should be thinking about. When we were growing up, we were kind of told, not to touch down there. That our sex life was absolutely going to shut down by the time at least we're 50. We don't really have role models that we're having healthy sex lives older. So, I guess what's it called? Like biocognitive. It's kind of like whatever you're thinking is what your biology, your physiology is going to do. So if you grow up thinking that you're going to shut down there, which probably more my generation and up has done, it can set you up for all those kind of things. At the very least, maybe you just don't want to have sex anymore because you've been told all these years that you don't want to do it, or you're not going to need it.
Exactly, Susan. Exactly, and it's frightening. The statistics are frightening that 1 in 3 women, and I'm not talking about older women, I'm talking about women from 20s up, will actually experience issues with incontinence, issues with dysfunction of the pelvic floor that actually feed into every part of your life. Being a woman who has confidence in the world and who's able to access her full power, there's a huge amount of women who are actually suffering silently, who basically have lost connection with that core power that we hold as women. And so it's really been an incredible passion of mine to bring people back into connection with that center of power. And it's very ironic because we see it as a place sometimes we don't want to even think about or look at.
Yeah.
And, and sometimes it's not even till we have our babies and we're in childbirth that we're even having to go there.
Yeah. So when you're talking about it, are you talking when your passion for it, is it from do you look at it as something more powerful than just this sexual thing? You're coming from it from that it can hold the keys to other things in life if you address the pelvic floor and the region and all of that?
Without trying to sound too esoteric and woo and Byron Bay.
Yeah.
What I've noticed incredibly in the coaching journey and the therapy and yoga journey is that our alignment with who we are and our ability to really find our voice as women really has a very close relationship with how we were actually brought up to see ourselves as women on an intimate level. Yeah. So if we have had shame in our lives, if we've had abuse or trauma, if we've had a sense that we're not actually okay through our upbringing, then not only does that affect our integrity on a physiological level, but it also stops us and holds us back from really showing who we are and revealing ourselves, because we feel there's something we have to hide. We can't be open about it. We feel that it's shameful for some reason. And I love to get to the bottom of that for women.
Yeah, I love it. It's like what I love so much about right now is it's like we're probably the 40 to 60-year-old generation. We're all starting to kind of say no more secrets, no more old wives' tales, no more having to follow these traditions. We're questioning everything. And I think that I love that this is an area that is not necessarily a woo-woo thing, that we can finally say, hey, I want to be more in control of my body. I want to know all the possibilities. I want to be able to address things that maybe I put under the rug through my life. And I want to live the next half of my life with as much potential physiologically, emotionally, spiritually, every single way that I can. So I love this. So when you are working with your clients, where do you start? If someone doesn't even know exactly the range of their pelvic floor or what it is, how do you teach them?
Yeah. Well, it always helps to give a good anatomy talk first, because I'm actually an anatomy expert on the yoga teacher training. So
Oh,
I
awesome.
start with the the physical level, and that muscle group obviously is located between the pubic bone at the front of the body and the tailbone at the back. And there's this fascinating muscle that's part of the pelvic floor. This always gets a laugh. It's known as the pubococcygeus muscle, and we shorten that to the PC muscle. So it's actually it's a politically correct muscle. And when you think about this muscle, it's actually holding all of your organs in place. So when we actually really think about it from a functional point of view, and we can go there with the science behind it, it becomes a very grounded way of seeing the body first, before we can then delve into what exactly it means to be in connection to that muscle.
I love that.
So
It's
and it's
like a basket in a way.
it is. It's a sling shape, and it's basically almost when you think about it from a physiological point of view, it is actually holding your integrity of your whole torso. So when I refer to this muscle group, I'm also it's very important that we are able to connect with it through the breath as well, because the breath itself is another part of the physiology of the body that really affects the way that your pelvic floor works. And isn't it interesting that when we get anxious and when we get uptight, and perhaps when we're going through a lot of changes, our breath tends to respond very, quite drastically to the stress that we're going through.
Sure.
Yeah, and so the pelvic floor could be considered to be a similar indicator in your body as the breath in terms of your stress levels. And it's a little bit like the canary in the mine shaft. So what the miners used to do is they'd send a little cage with a canary inside it down the mine shaft to check on the health and the state of what was down under. Yeah. And if that, when they pulled the cage back up, if the canary wasn't looking too healthy, they'd know that environment wasn't good for the miners.
Yeah.
And it's the same with your body. If there's something that's dysfunctional, not going quite right with the bladder or the pelvic floor, it's an indicator that other areas like your hormones are actually out of balance. And the two go hand in hand with how healthy is your breathing cycle in relation to your pelvic floor also, and your stress levels. Yeah, so they're very closely related.
Oh, that was a great description. So the when you're going through perimenopause, if you really are, we know the obvious areas of thinking about hormones, but is that kind of like you're putting the cart before the horse? You should really be thinking more about pelvic floor region and all the organs there, and the hormones up from there go first, pelvic floor and breath and that type of thing?
Actually, they're essential components to a holistic viewpoint of the body. So looking at the physiology and being able to engage with the muscle group actually creates the ability for the muscle to contract and relax and circulate the hormones into the abdominal area of the body. So when we go through stress, the fight or flight response in the body actually sends all of our blood flow away from our organs and into our arms and legs, so that we can rally ourselves for stress.
Yep.
And our breath rises in our rib cage and rises into the upper chest, and all of the blood flows away from the critical organs that circulate and actually distribute hormones.
Right.
So if we're able to reconnect with the breath and the pelvic floor in a healthy way, then we are in fact creating a real improvement and nourishment in circulation to very vital organs that distribute hormones in their equal balance.
You just Whoa! You just articulated something that I have not been able, because I'm a yoga student. I've been practicing yoga for many years, and I'm convinced that I feel really good right now because of yoga. And because in yoga, I'll let you explain what it is, but it's called Mula Bandha. So you're activating Mula Bandha, which is pelvic floor area. But that's kind of all I know from a student level. I never, until you just said that, made the connection that the breath and the Mula Bandha is stimulating the hormones, which is probably, and whatever else I need to feel good during this transition. Is that what's going on? Why yoga can really help you go through this?
Absolutely. It's quite profound what's happening, but on a biochemical level, for you to be practicing not only the Mula Bandha method of actually lifting the pelvic floor, which for our audience's sake is the same action you would have if you were stopping the flow of urine midstream. So it's a very gentle lift through the center of the body. So we would locate that area between the pubic bone at the front and the tailbone at the back. We'd go right in the center of the body at that point.
I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it right now as we speak.
Yeah.
You can't even tell, can you?
That's beautiful. That's the beautiful thing, is that no one has to know. You can do it anywhere. But one thing I really want to point out about that too is that there's been a lot of recent research that people don't actually know about, which I think has been quite revelatory around the pelvic floor and in relationship to the breath. And that actually also affects a lot of younger women as well as older women. So what happens with the breathing is that when we actually take a big breath in and take a really deep inhale, all of the organs get pushed down by our diaphragm and lungs, yeah? And the organs themselves press on the pelvic floor, so that on your inhale, your pelvic floor will very slightly move downwards. And then as you exhale, your pelvic floor should be undergoing a rhythmic movement back up towards the spine and towards the navel. Yeah?
Yeah.
But what happens with a lot of women who have been under stress for a lot of years, or if they've had issues with their hormones, the actual rhythm between the diaphragm of breathing and the pelvic floor is lost. They lose that connection between those two muscular slings or muscular, separations.
Yeah.
So basically, that is where the problems start, and they can start as early as 20s, and particularly after childbirth.
Yeah,
I lose the connection.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how that could be also, because I never even, if I didn't do yoga for the last 15 years, I've had 3 kids, but I've never experienced, I can definitely activate Mula Bandha. I can activate my Kegel muscles, which I guess is what we're talking about, but I can activate that. But maybe if I didn't do yoga and didn't learn how to do that, it could have been, I can see how you could be disconnected from feeling that. You have to work it, Yeah, it's a subtle thing, but you do have to do it.
You're absolutely right. It's something that is so easy to lose touch with until it starts to be the canary in the mine shaft and gives some issues. And by then, you've actually bypassed some of the key preventative strategies you could be taking now turn into a snowball that actually creates, an issue that you don't want to have to reverse. If we can keep it healthy now, then all is well.
Awesome. I want to talk about, before we move on, so when people come and they do a workshop with you, how do you address this area? How do you teach women how to get in touch with their pelvic floor? It sounds like so. That's my generation talking. It sounds, but how do you do it? Because it makes me feel like we've got to do this now. it's something that we really got to get a handle on now. So how do you teach women who are really inexperienced with that area? How do you teach them to get into it?
So, shall we go through a meditation and a process then? Is this a good time for us to dive into that?
Yeah, can I ask one quick question before we do?
Sure.
Okay, because I think this will make the meditation even more powerful. Can we go Byron Bay Woo Woo for 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
My favorite.
Okay. So, you know it's mine too. So how is the pelvic floor connected with our creativity, with our possibility, our potential? What's the connection there? Not sexual, but creative.
Fantastic. Such a fabulous question. I love it. Look, I'll answer it in relation to the yogic model of the body, which is very different to the Western scientific model, but has some overlaps that I find really fascinating. So basically, the yogis believe in the presence of chakras in the body. And the very lowest chakra in the body is known as your Muladhara chakra. Yeah?
Yep.
And that particular chakra is related to your family, your tribe, your community, and your sense of grounding. And it's interesting because it is actually your survival center. So it's that center that we need to basically be feeling safe and feeling connected to community and feeling part of a family before we can then venture out into doing these more sophisticated things with our life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If we're stuck in survival, we all know being stuck in survival mode is something that prevents you from being able to access those higher creative powers.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yep.
And so then when we move up the body to our next chakra, which sits just above the pubic bone, between the navel and the pubic bone, we're moving to this center known as Swadisthana. And the yogis believe that Swadisthana is actually the Shakti center itself. And that is actually where our co-creative force really starts to be able to be activated in the world. So as women, we all know what it feels like to have this gut instinct, yeah?
Yep.
We know what it feels like to feel in our gut what the truth is for us. And when we feel into our body, we get a sense of either excitement, which is, our green light, or our trepidation, our fear response, which is our red light.
Yep.
And if we've lost our connection to that, then we lose that potential to connect with our co-creative power and that ability to make manifest the physical universe around us. So in actual fact, that sense of the divine feminine is all mooted in the lower two chakras and the health and the connection of those chakras. But what's even more fascinating is when you look at that in relation to the Western scientific model, because the Western scientific model, basically the hormonal glandular system is very, very strong in this area of the body. And on top of that, the gut area, the intestinal tract, has more nerve cells operating on it. So it's considered to be the second brain in medicine. It's an area that literally has the capacity to think. There are more nerve cells along our intestinal and lower intestinal tract than there are in the whole spinal cord. So we have the capacity to think from this space, and we have the capacity to create from this space.
Excuse my chakra ignorance, but so if I'm feeling, a lot of us at midlife, we feel like we're stuck, we feel like we're at a crossroads, whatever, is that related to those chakras? Root chakras?
According to the yogis, the chakra that drives you through to an ambition of creating your dharma in the world is actually the chakra of Manipura, which sits just above those other two chakras. So those lower two chakras need to be in a somewhat functional space or state of health in order for you to then move forward with Manipura, which is your ego center and your center of ambition that actually says, yes, I'm powerful, I'm going to go out there and go for it, you know? And if there is blockages in, and also those lower three chakras are often fairly unconscious chakras. We don't even know what belief systems have been embedded in
Sure.
us when we were being brought up in our families.
Sure.
You know? And those things exist as an embodiment of how we then perform in the world and act in the world. And the
Love it.
only transformer that that we really have to address that is by being able to access our understanding, shining the light of awareness on what it is that's actually happened in our lives.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Pennies are dropping. Light bulbs are going off in my head. Only took me 15 years of yoga to finally get a grip on some of this stuff. But no, it's funny when you have, you kind of get a lot of little bits of information or whatever, especially if you're just a yoga student. And you get little bits of information, and unless you're really into it, I tend to have a little bit, because I come from a little bit of a skeptical mind. So
Yes.
being a former journalist, so I kind of think more along like chakra schmakra. But now lately I'm really starting to understand. But sometimes it just takes someone like you to just explain it in a way. It needs to make sense, and I guess being able to connect it is something that's proactive on a lot of levels for our health during this time of life. It's what I needed to understand it. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. I can tell you I've been the biggest cynic that ever walked the planet until I've actually experienced the power of what has happened in my own world. So in that respect, I feel like I'm a walking testament to, and it's very, very important to me to see the Western science as well, and to keep it grounded and to keep it real. Because I tell you what, there is a lot of speculation, and we may never arrive at a truth. And we don't need to be dogmatic.
No.
It's just interesting. It's curious stuff.
Yeah, and it's harmless information. But what's interesting to note about it is we both love Dr. Christiane Northrup, and she is one of several doctors that are really getting into chakras and the more subtle body systems very heavily. Women that have a very strong, not only women, but these high profile doctors, men and women, who are really, blending these kind of the traditional Western science with the idea of chakras and everything like that into really, they're really going heavier in a way I've never seen before. So it's cool. I think things are shifting in that way.
I think it's impossible for it not to.
Yeah.
It's there's too much that's been revealed by quantum physics that's taken us out of that box and that very conditioned way of masculine science.
Yeah.
Is giving way to this more feminine idea that everything is energy and that we are in fact energetic beings.
Yeah.
It's a subject very dear to my heart.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, it's good. It's really good work. And also, the fact is that if you are going through challenges, I think the traditional way of treating them is antidepressants or, hormone replacement therapy, which might be fine but it's a kind of traditional Western approach without asking further questions. Are women feeling better from this traditional approach? No. When people don't want to be on antidepressants their whole life for whether it's physical or emotional things. So we've kind of gotten to a place that, we have to look outside our doctor's offices to get answers on how to feel well during this time.
Such a good point. Absolutely.
But speaking of feeling well at this time, you've offered to do a beautiful meditation for us, which is probably one of those key ways to start putting into some type of practice to feel good and to get all the juice going. So I'll leave it in your hands, lovely Lisa. You tell me what I need to do. And if I might
So
open my eyes because I might just want to make sure that I'm still recording. So if I cheat and
absolutely.
I open my eyes and I put on my glasses, that's what's going on.
That's absolutely fine. You look comfortable anyway. It's good
Yeah.
if you can take a seat where you know you can have your spine in a comfortable long position and upright as well. So the pelvic floor actually loves it when we have what we
And
call the
excuse me for
yoga
1 second.
adjacent
Excuse me
spine.
for 1 second, Lisa. Everybody, if you're watching this right now or you're listening to Lisa Fitzpatrick talking right now, I really want you to take a moment. If you can't do it right now, pause it, get comfortable, come back to this, but let's all do this together. Okay? I'm doing it with you right now. Okay, Lisa, over to you.
So taking a comfortable seat, and if you are driving, obviously you'd stop the car or stop the recording. And I'd also love for you to turn off any distractions, phones, what have you. And so you're comfortable there.
Yeah, good.
And what we're going to do first is we'll make sure that the spine is long and soft, but we're also making sure that the crown of the head is lined up with the base of the body. So the very first part of the body that we're going to locate is that point between the pubic bone at the front and the tailbone at the back, at the very base of the body, midway. And we're dropping a line of our awareness from the crown of the head all the way down through the center of the body to that base point of the body. Yeah? Just imagining that you're perfectly symmetrical in your body around that line, which is known as your Sushumna Nadi in yoga, the central channel. And when that central channel is unobstructed and we have this perfect poise and posture, all of our chakras and all of our organs and all of our muscles are actually holding us in a very aligned position. So in actual fact, we're in a place and a state of physiology that is very optimum for our body. And you'll notice if anyone's feeling a bit down, this is the time to relax the shoulders back and down and open the chest slightly, to tuck the chin in slightly, and just position around that line of energy. And then tune into the breath. So you're taking your awareness to the breath as it enters and exits the nostrils. Just getting a sense of how the breath rises and falls. And as the breath enters the body, feeling the breath actually coming down into the belly now. So that the breath is nice and long and soft, and the breath's coming all the way down into the abdomen, and the abdomen actually feels like it's expanding with your inhale. And then with your exhale, you're feeling the abdomen gently move back towards the spine, the navel, the belly button moving back to the spine on your exhale. And just repeating those long, soft breaths until you feel your breath is actually reaching really deep into the abdomen and pelvis now. You're feeling the rise and the fall of the breath, and bringing the awareness back to that point in the body, right at the base of the body, between the pubic bone at the front and the tailbone at the back. We're just settling our attention here now, turning the eyes inward to look deep into the body, the base of the body. And we're just going to place here, visualize here, a ball of light. It's around about the size of a tennis ball. It's a silvery golden ball of light sitting at the base of the body here. And we notice that as we inhale, the ball of light expands and the pelvic floor moves down and opens ever so slightly on our inhale. And then as we exhale, just imagine that the ball of light's traveling up through the center line of the body slightly on your exhale, and see where it stops for you. And then when you next inhale, feel it drawing back down through the center line of the body, and feel the pelvic floor draw down slightly and open. And then on your next exhale, we're going to take the ball of light back up through the center line of the body. And at the same time, we're feeling the pelvic floor lift and draw up towards the navel and spine. It's following the ball up on your exhale. And then as you inhale, you're drawing the ball of light back down again to the base of the body. I just want you to repeat that exercise, and this while you're focusing on the ball of light drawing the pelvic floor up and back with the breath, we're going to imagine that we're taking the pelvic floor up a 3-story building. So just let the impression of the ball of light fade away, so that you can come back to the ground floor now of your 3-story building. And on your next inhale, you're arriving at the bottom of the 3-story building in the elevator. Yeah. And then on your next exhale, I want you to draw the pelvic floor up as though you're lifting that elevator all the way up to the top of the 3-story building. And what that feels like is that you're taking it to the absolute maximum capacity that you can possibly take it to, all the way to the very top of the building. And then on your next inhale, you're taking the lift and the pelvic floor all the way down to the floor. Static jump. You okay with that, Ed?
Yeah, I'm good, Lisa. Thank you.
Just take a pause and start that exercise, staying in the breath. So you're taking the elevator now down to the base of the body. On your next inhale, you're imagining you're arriving at ground floor. And then on your next exhale and bring the elevator all the way up to the 3rd story of the building, the very top of the building, which takes you into the maximum contraction that you can possibly manage with the muscles. And that action feels similar to how it feels when you're really wanting to hold on to a wee that wants to come out. But you're actually holding it really strongly and taking it as far as you can to 100%. And then on your inhale, you're letting it go again and letting it come back down to the ground floor, as we call it. And we'll just do that one more time with your next exhale. Take it to the fullest capacity that you can. And arriving back to the ground floor again. And we're just going to fine tune that action now, so that we're taking the elevator on your next exhale. We're going to take the elevator just to the 1st floor only. So what that means is you're only working to about 30% of your strength as you take it to the 1st floor. And then on your next inhale, you'll take the lift all the way back to the ground floor again. So we're taking it once again to the 1st floor as you exhale, about 30% of your possible force of contraction, and then all the way to the ground floor on your inhale. One more time, just getting a sense of what it means to partially activate the muscle to 30% of your capacity. Imagining that lift as you take the breath. And then on the next breath in, we're taking the elevator to the ground floor, and then we're going to exhale so that we lift the elevator all the way up now to the second story of the building. And that means we're contracting to around about 60% of the strength that we have available. And then on your inhale, it's softening, relaxing back down to ground floor again. Feeling a letting go. And then on the exhale, you're feeling the movement as the lift comes to around about 60% to the second floor. And at the same time, the abdominal muscles really gently hug towards the spine. On the inhale, the abdomen expands as the pelvic floor moves down and the lift lowers all the way to the floor. And on the exhale, you're drawing the pelvic floor up at the same time that the abdominals are moving in towards the spine. And just one more time to take the lift all the way to the ground. Feel the abdomen soften as you take the lift to the ground and feel the breath soften into the belly. And then take the lift all the way back up one more time to that second story, 60% contraction. We're really creating a rhythm between the pelvic floor and the abdominal muscles, and then you're taking it back down to the ground floor again as your abdominals and pelvic floor muscles let go and soften. And we'll come back to the top story so that we can feel again what it means to be 100% engaged with the muscle. So you're taking the breath now down to the ground floor on the inhale, and then on your next exhale, take it all the way up to the top story, the highest peak of the building. Let it stay there for a moment and just pause it while you take a breath, and see if you can hold the contraction while you actually take an inhale and an exhale. And then let it soften and release down to the ground on your next inhale. And let's just clear that exercise to make way for another movement that's really fantastic to locate for further fine tuning. So this movement of the pelvic floor is one that actually happens it's one that works with the fast twitch fibers. Is your reception okay there? We've done a little bit of a train ride going on. So with the next one, we're just going to work briefly with fast twitch fibers. So what we did with that last exercise was we worked with what we call slow twitch muscle fibers, which are more of the endurance fibers that we need to use and we need to engage whenever we're heavy lifting or doing something that engages us with endurance or strength. It's really, really critical that we know how to switch those muscles on, because one of the biggest issues that women have is that they actually press and push the muscles down and out on their exhale when they're doing something, strenuous like yoga or lifting heavy washing baskets.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in women's physiotherapy clinics, we're getting women really young who have complete prolapse of their organs because of this endurance pressing away from the body, rather than the lifting action that comes with the exhale and the lock that we put in place with Mula Bandha. Yeah. So the other part of the piece, though, is that our fast twitch muscles need to be in fine order as well. So these are the muscles that really help bring the blood flow into the area. And these are muscles that also create the juiciness that we have as women, the vitality that we have as women. So what we do to exercise this particular part of the muscle is that we'll just completely forget about the breath and go into a feeling of contract, relax, contract, relax, a little like a pulsation of action. And I always love to tell this the analogy my women's health physiotherapist trainer used when on the pelvic floor training that we did. She said, imagine that someone's coming towards the clitoris with a really sharp pointed needle.
Oh.
Yeah?
Got it.
Got it?
Say no more. Yeah.
And you're very gently flinching your PC muscle, your clitoral area, away from that pin.
Okay.
And you're accessing the very finest part of the muscle that fine-tunes the vitality and the lubrication and the blood flow to the area. And you just contract, relax, as though the needle's moving towards and away, and you're pulsating for around about 10 repetitions.
Okay, so I'm doing it right now. You don't have to be closing your eyes or anything while you do it, or should you be, or?
No, it's a beautiful thing that you do it everywhere. I have a rule of the 5 T's. So my rule of 5 T's is that when you're having your cup of tea, when you're on the telephone,
don't tell anybody.
When you're having your cup of tea, when you're on the telephone, when you're watching television, and when you're stuck in traffic, they're all opportunities for you to remember your pelvic floor, your PC muscles.
Awesome.
Because these muscles are keeping you alive. They're keeping your organs healthy.
And so literally doing the fast twitch. The fast twitch
thing. You
thing.
could do the fast twitch for 10 reps for one of those little rounds.
Yep.
Or you could choose to do the elevator exercise for another round.
Yep.
Or you could choose to do just 10 repetitions of the long, slow breath and the inhale and the exhale with the contract and relax of the muscle.
And I feel like,
repetitions.
Gotcha, thanks Lisa. And I feel like you said that this is really good for incontinence.
It's critical, and one of the things that really freaked me out was when I did some work in aged care, and I saw that 99% of the residents in aged care facilities are actually incontinent, fully incontinent, and that the medical profession sees it as being normal.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, it's not normal.
Yeah.
It's something we have control over. We can prevent it. But the damage, the prevention starts as young as possible. It's a fascinating thing that over 30, 40 years, we are inadvertently doing damage by not engaging the muscles whenever we do something that might be slightly exerting for us. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love everything. First of all, that's a very powerful statistic. That's a frightening statistic. I think that we're rewriting that kind of history, that kind of legacy. I really think, I think our numbers we're gonna tell different tales about where we're at because of how we look after ourselves now.
I hope so. I also got really frightened by the statistics of how many amazing athletes and women who are powerful in their sports at very young ages giving up because they're so embarrassed that they've been creating damage that they're not continent actually in their sport anymore.
Right.
And women who have had babies who, really suffer from the stigma of the postnatal depression relationship with the pelvic floor and sexual dysfunction that accompanies that.
Yeah.
So there's so many myriad reasons why at any stage of life it's such an essential thing for us to be engaging in a dialogue with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think,
5 T's.
So great.
5 T's.
5 T's.
Don't forget Lisa's 5 T's. Love it. Thank you. I mean, my takeaway on this, just off the top of my head, that last statistic, we know if we know something right now, sometime we can do something about it. The connection, why yoga, when you're doing yoga, why it is so supportive of perimenopausal transition, and then also that creative thing, your these three chakras, just kind of an understanding of the chakras in this area, and how you just knowing, being able to do this, the type of meditation or the fast twitch or whatever, how it just gets things going. I could feel it in the meditation, just to concentrate on that area, just feeling like blood flowing. That was I was looking at it from a very practical level, just oxygen, blood flowing, muscles moving, and that's fabulous for us.
And that blood flow is bringing beautiful nutrients and hormones and fresh information to the body that just the body relishes it. We're nourishing ourselves. It's a way of us giving back to ourselves, actually.
Oh, yeah. Love it. Now, I want to finish off, Lisa. Everyone will have your details and stuff, but you write this beautiful e-zine that comes out every single week, and we all get newsletters. We all subscribe to newsletters, and maybe at times we even get over them because I don't know. Yours is more special than others. I get such great inspiration from you. Lisa writes these amazing pieces there and gives tips and different coaching ideas and things like that. But this last week, you did a beautiful piece about the blue door and the red door. And can you just quickly just tell us that story, because it really moved me. It moved your followers, and I just think that you guys listening might really love it, listening and watching.
Oh. I enjoyed it. About the red door and the blue door. So we could be making, at any stage of our life, we've got two choices we can make. When we're making a decision, we can walk through this blue door or a red door. So if we walk through the blue door, we're choosing comfort and safety and security, and we're choosing what we already know. And we look around us when we walk through the blue door, and we see that it's actually quite easy to turn on the TV, put the feet up, and not worry so much about chasing our dreams. Because when you look around you, there's not many other people in the world who seem to be able to live that life that we've dreamed of. It seems that the majority are quietly making the same excuses that we are to really just settle. Yeah. And it's not such a bad thing. But inside us, we know we've settled, and that bugs us. Yeah. It does bug us. It bugs our nervous system, and it bugs our heart. Yeah. And these places, they're not really content. They're not really at peace with the world. And in fact, it can lead to major discomfort ultimately.
Yeah, but it's like the normal comfortable. It's like the comfortable thing. We stay in our nice little comfort zone, but it's discomfort in the comfort.
Quiet desperation in some respects, but not to be disrespectful. I've been behind the blue door many times. Yeah. I understand it's a place we don't realize sometimes that we're choosing it, and that it is a choice.
Yeah.
And then we make. If we do open the red door, it feels quite frightening because it's a totally new way of being in the world. It's basically that way that says to us, well, you are 100% at cause for what you're creating in your life. And you're going to step outside your comfort zone, walking through the red door, and you're actually going to risk almost everything. You're really not going to be comfortable here, but you're going to have the ability, the capacity to reach out and collaborate with others who are on this amazing path of responsibility and being in their realizing their creative potential. So I know for a fact when I choose to walk through the red door, many amazing things happen in my life, including meeting amazing women like you, Susan.
Yeah, same, Lisa.
So Susan and I met. I was walking through that red door thinking that it was scary to fly to Melbourne. It was scary to leave my children. Yeah. And, it opened up a world to me that has continued to flourish as a result of these amazing women who are behind that red door doing doing their work in the world.
Yeah. But isn't it funny? You can talk about the red door and it can seem so scary, but look at the beautiful smile on your face. It's the one frightening kind of, it's something we perceive as frightening, but look how much we smile when we think about the scary red door.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's true. One of my coaching clients this morning said, Lisa, I'm on the tightrope. It's really thin. I don't know if it can hold me.
And what did you say?
Well, it's true. And we have to keep our eyes facing forward and slightly up.
Yeah.
We can't look down.
Yeah.
We have to look ahead and up. And when we are there, we have people on either side balancing us and holding our hand. And we just don't realize it sometimes.
True. Very true.
Especially in Australia, I think we have a tall poppy syndrome, and we don't realise that what we're tapping into is something inside all of those people behind the blue door. They really want to be alongside you. They really do. They want what you have to offer.
Yeah, in Australia, they call the tall poppy syndrome. Australia has a tendency when people get a little bit too big for their britches, the public wants to chop them down. Tall poppy, chop down the flower. I was also thinking that from a traditional cultural point of view too, our parents have always instilled in us, or the parents' generation really instilled in us, to be safe, to be comfort is what you want. You want to be comfortable. You don't want to go outside the square. You want to be in the white picket fence kind of thing. So that's something that we've always been raised to aim for and aspire to. But when the red door, we're just not used to it. We've never been told that we can do the red door for most of us of this generation. So it's just unfamiliar,
I really appreciate that perspective. I've never seen it from that point of view before, but you're absolutely right. It's a conditioning.
Yeah, and I didn't think it from tall poppy point of view either. So it's cool that there's a lot going on there's a lot that feels at stake when you want to go outside your patch. But the way you described it, I'll have a link to it on the show notes. The way you described it was very, very moving, and I highly encourage you, if you really want a beautiful bit of energy for your week, you will love subscribing to Lisa's easing. So just follow the link and you can do that. Okay, honey, I'm going to let you go do all of the hippie things that you do there at Byron Bay. No, it's so fabulous. I highly recommend, if like a lot of tourists, they know Sydney, they know Melbourne, but you got to go to Byron Bay. Maybe you locals in Byron Bay won't be too excited to think about more tourists coming over there, but it is a really super special part of the world, no doubt about that.
It is special, it is, and thank you so much for your wonderful presence today, Susan.
My pleasure, lovely. I'm just gonna sign off and I'm doing my one of my teas right now while I'm talking to you. Hey, thanks so much for all this awesome information, Lisa. I'm gonna just stop a recording, but you just stay right there.
Pleasure.
Thanks, lovely.